Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys. It's Friday, April 27th, ready to take you into a playoff weekend. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Andrew McGinnis, Dana Lane, and Alex B. Smith. The second round getting underway with victories by Pittsburgh and the Vegas Golden Knights, who said it's a football game, not a hockey game. We're going to win this thing by a touchdown. They did. A very impressive, dominant performance in game one by the Golden Knights, and a great comeback in the third period by the Pittsburgh Penguins, and a brutal missed opportunity for the Washington Capitals. A 2-0 lead early in the third period. No Malkin, no Hagelin, no problem for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Depth rises up again. Crosby and Gensel with all-world performances, just like they have all playoff for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they rise up and take game one of that series last night. Now we're moving on to Friday, Saturday action. We've got Winnipeg, Nashville tonight. We'll talk about the two Saturday games as well. Boston, Tampa, game one. San Jose, Vegas, game two. So let's get to it with Winnipeg, Nashville, game one in Music City tonight. Nashville minus 155, home favorites, total 5.5, slightly shaded to the over. And from a attention perspective and, publicity and how excited are you for each series in this second round? Vegas is getting a lot of discussion because of the season they've had. So people are juiced up for that series. I understand that. Pittsburgh, Washington, it goes without saying. Crosby versus Ovechkin, a great rivalry. And the Capitals finally beat Pittsburgh and win a second round series. That's a storyline people are into. People should be into this series. I know it's Nashville, Tennessee, small market. I know it's a Canadian market, Winnipeg. It doesn't register on the radar of NBC and NBC Sports Network. I get that. But this series has every bit the chance to be as good as the rest of the series in this second round, if not the best series, in my opinion, in this second round. I'm looking forward to it. Two teams with great speed on all four lines that can contribute offensively from all four lines, and two teams that are very underrated defensively as well. They can play both ways. Winnipeg can play high scoring. Winnipeg can play low scoring. Nashville can play high scoring. Nashville can win low scoring as well. That's what's making this series fantastic. For Nashville, obviously the Philip Forsbergs and Victor Arvidssons and Kevin Fialas and Kyle Turris and Craig Smith lead the way offensively, but they're a team that where your Colton Sissons of the world and your Austin Watsons of the world can step up and score on the bottom six. They did that against Colorado, capable of doing that here. Same thing for Winnipeg. They can get goals from their bottom six, even though Scheifele and Lion and Little and all of those guys are going to be the guys that really carry the way for the Winnipeg Jets. And you've got two more than capable goaltenders, Pekka Rinne and Connor Hellebuck in net here in this series. It's a great series. I'm trying to make a little case here for the Winnipeg Jets. I really am in this series. I think they've got a legit chance, to be honest with you, as much as Nashville, that home ice could be the difference maker if it goes 7 games, and getting that 7th game in that Bridgestone Arena where they've been magnificent the last couple of years. That's a big deal. But I'll tell you what, Winnipeg's going to be Nashville's got to go to another gear in this series if they're going to beat Winnipeg. The performance they laid out there against Colorado, it's not going to get the job done against Winnipeg. They're going to have to take this thing up to another level. Nashville, capable of doing it. Will they be able to do it? We'll see. Game one, from a side perspective, for me, is a hard one to judge. I'm hoping Nashville wins game one tonight. I'll probably take Winnipeg game two. This is a series where I want to bet the team off a loss, plain and simple. I think it's going to be that kind of series. I'm going to look from a side perspective to bet on the team that lost the previous game. I really do think this is a zigzag, back and forth, ebb and flow type of series to it from start to finish between two very good, evenly matched teams. So I'm going to stay out of the side tonight in game one, and maybe look to back the loser of game one and game two on Sunday night when we reconvene for that show. But I will be involved in the total on this game. I mean, you're looking at every game in this season series between these two teams being high scoring, except one 3-1 result. And that 1-3-1 result is misleading. There were a lot of shots, a lot of chances in that game, which also could have easily gone over the total. And again, you've got a 5.5 that you're being offered here by these odds makers. I was a little stunned not to see 6 here right off the hop in game one of this series. You look at it again, season series, 5-3, 6-4, 6-5, 5-4. And the 3-1 game had 78 combined shots. You had 45 on one side, 33 on the other. So that was a fool's gold kind of under. That 3-1 result back on March 13th should have gone over, given the shots and chances there were and the power play opportunities that there were in that game. So my bet here in game one will be over 5.5 minus 115 here, Nashville, Winnipeg, game one of this series. Let's go to Around the Horn. Everybody's going to talk about every game here on today's show. Let's go to Andrew first. Game one and the series thoughts for Winnipeg, Nashville. Could be the best of the bunch, in my opinion. Andrew, what do you see happening?
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Ian. I think this is realistically the best series we're going to see all playoff long. I think it's going to be a very deep series. It's not going to be a quick one. And, listening to what Paul Maurice had to say in the press conference and with the media talking about exactly what this series means and how it's going to shape up, they're really talking about how these two teams are both not teams that they're going to want to slow the pace down whatsoever. They're very fast teams, and we're going to sit back tonight. We're going to watch this game. It's going to be, the battle of 8 lines, really. There's not, this is two teams where it's not just one line that can score, but realistically, what really does trouble me about this Winnipeg team was that game 3 when they very, very easily handled the first 2 games. They head over to Minnesota and they lose 6-2. Now, I understand, you can't sweep everybody. You can't have a perfect game through an entire series, but when I'm watching a first round and I'm looking at these teams and looking at what I'm expecting from them for the rest of the playoffs, that wasn't enough. I think they really very much just kind of folded over and kind of just gave Minnesota that first game at home. And to me, that's not really impressive. That's not really what you want to see out of a team that is supposedly supposed to be a cup contender and a team that can go on and beat Nashville in the second round. Now, having said that, I think that Nashville didn't really play their best series as well either, but I really think they just kind of did enough. I think that's a lot of times coaches really preach that don't just try and be better than your opposing team. Try and be the best you can be. And I think that Nashville, we've yet to see what they can do as their best. But I realistically think that as far as Winnipeg goes, we have seen what they have to offer. Really, we have seen their best games against Minnesota. But as far as Nashville against Colorado goes, I wasn't really impressed as far as seeing the full maximum potential. We didn't really see these excellent defensive pairings jumping up into the rush as much as we'd like. It was kind of just like a stay conservative, tip it up, throw the puck up to a star player like Forsberg, and then let him do the rest. So I think that in this game, like you mentioned, that we're lucky enough that the odds makers are giving us a 5.5 number, 4-1 for the over in the last 5 meetings between these two teams. I think this game is going to be a very, very fast-paced game. I'm keeping things very simple with the over 5.5. Also with the goaltending matchup, first of all, I don't think Rinne has been looking too exceptional either. I think that as far as, everyone likes to talk about a goaltender carrying a team to a championship or to a Stanley Cup. And you look at what we're really seeing out of, guys like Bernier even versus Rinne. And, we really have to wonder against that one line, because let's face it, Colorado has one line that could really be dangerous. That's why I think Nathan McKinnon is a Hart Trophy candidate, because he did carry that team to the playoffs. When you've got one line like the Colorado Avalanche had, and Nashville still had trouble with that, and we're able to have as much trouble that they seem to have against that Colorado team, it's worrisome. And so that's when I see a 5.5, guys, it really looks to me, when I see the Winnipeg as well, they're not looking for defense. I mean, these are two teams that have extraordinary 3, maybe 3.5 lines that can really do damage. So I'm looking at this over 5.5 in this first game. It should be a great series. Should be a huge start to this one. Unless Hellebuyck can kind of figure things out, I don't think that it's going to be a goaltending matchup. I mean, Hellebuyck versus Rinne in this one, it should be a sloppy one. I think, honestly, high scoring first affair, going over 5.5.
Yeah, here's the thing about Hellebuyck. He's been great. He's had a great season, remarkable season. Well, he's going to find out quickly in this, and I think he's capable of being very good again. But he's going to find out very quickly it's not Minnesota's offense anymore. I mean, that's a limited group. They didn't have Parise the last few games of that series. Let's see now what he does now. Nashville, much a deeper hockey club. He can handle it. You mentioned something, Andrew, about Winnipeg and the fact they had that one game that worried you where they didn't play well game 3. I'm giving that Winnipeg team a total pass and mulligan for that performance. That was when they had to fly in the day of the game, snowstorm and all that, and they were not right. The focus was not there. It was a terribly played game on their part. You throw that one out away, it was domination in every other game pretty much by the Winnipeg Jets in that series. So I'm going to give them a little pass for that 1 week performance they had game 3 in Minnesota. Other than that, they polished off Minnesota like nobody's business in that series. It was like men against boys from the beginning, a domination, the whole bit. So I'm going to give Winnipeg a little break for how they played in game 3. Obviously, going Nashville won't be easy, but this is a tough series. There's not a lot to choose from here. It should be something to see these two teams go at it for potentially up to 7 games. Let's go to Dana Lane. Let's get his take. Jets and Predators. Dana, what do you see happening here?
So, Andrew, is that the typical volleyball outfit, or what's going on up there? And then here, is this? I just want some reaction.
Are you fresh off the links, Dana, going up for going golfing or something?
Well,
like
that's
that?
exactly right. Actually, I'm fresh off of sitting on my ass and handicapping games for 5 hours. But thank you for
Wardrobe
That's why I'm
trash
wearing my
talking.
yeah,
volleyball in Nova Scotia, representing my province, and yeah, it's just a
Nova
tracksuit.
Scotia, former home of the
Tracksuit. Yeah.
Voyageurs. That's nice. I like that. I should get some new clothes one day. Anyway, um, hey, Nashville, Winnipeg, guys. You know what's funny about this series? I kind of wondered, if I'm Nashville or a fan, the Nashville fan base, uh, looking at what Vegas did last night and that absolute asylum that they created at T-Mobile Arena. I wonder if I'm the Predator fan base and just sitting there saying, you know what? That's a good try. We're going to do better. I wonder if this is going to be the first time in history where one fan base inspires the other fan base to be better than they normally would be. I think this is potentially going to be the same situation that we just saw in Vegas last night. Is I think this Bridgestone Arena is going to be absolutely buzzing tonight, and I think it's going to take a game for Winnipeg to get adjusted. Now, do I think, and have I gone on record to think that to say that Winnipeg is going to win this series? Yes, absolutely. But as far as game one is concerned, I always heavily lean with a home team because I think there's an extra level there that the road team has to deal with, especially in places like Nashville, that they just simply didn't have to, they're just another level between regular and postseason. And then let's face it, guys, this is a place that Winnipeg has not fared well in. In fact, they've lost 4 out of the last 5 visits to Bridgestone Arena. There's no doubt that starting the series, that depth is on the side for Nashville. We always think about depth as 4 lines that can score, but and the other aspect that depth can give coaches, like in this case Peter Laviolette, the one thing that they can give them is the ability to interchange lines and not worry about losing any kind of offensive threat. If he kind of sees something that where he can interchange guys and make them more effective. That kind of depth is just gives them more options. And when you don't have the depth, then you can't interchange the lines. You can't interchange the lines as well as a team like Nashville can. Pekka Rinne is fantastic against Minnesota or against Winnipeg. He's won 15 out of his last 19 or 15 out of 19 starts against the Jets. So he is certainly a goaltender that is used to beating Winnipeg. But as the series goes on, guys, and maybe because I saw it up close, as the series goes on, I think Winnipeg's ability to be a little bit more physical is going to take its toll on Nashville. I mean, I tell the story 100 times how I watched the Winnipeg Jets get off the bus at City National Arena, where the Vegas Golden Knights practice, and that to me is by far the biggest team I've ever seen, and they will out physical Nashville for sure. But again, I go back to, well, if that's your goal is to wear a team down, that means you can't beat them straight up. I think that is going to take their toll. The only difference is that Winnipeg offensively has a lot more tools than the LA Kings did, which is the team that I always reference when I talk about physical play. But I just, to me, as this series goes on, as getting a decent plus price, I like Winnipeg. But in game one tonight, I think there's going to be way too much to overcome for the Jets. I think they're going to need a game to settle in. So we'll take Nashville tonight.
All right, Nashville
Dana,
money line. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
I
you got
love.
something? You got something, Andrew?
No, I
Yeah,
love
so
that you said that.
because I
I
could
gotta
see it to
ask.
my shirt.
Oh no, I gotta ask you because
How
I
about
actually
hockey,
really love
Dana?
that.
Not your wardrobe. Get your head out of the clouds. Let's go here. Yeah.
No, I really like your
Guessing.
point, like how you mentioned how physical Winnipeg can be. So my question to you, I understand you're saying that, like when I hear you say that, you're saying that if a team is trying to out physical another team, you're saying that's a negative thing because they don't think they can beat them straight up, right? That's what.
No, I don't think. Well, I don't think it's all. Listen, LA went into that series against Vegas, and their goal was to be the more physical of the two teams. Now, if I'm Winnipeg, now here's the difference. I think that they are going to try to come into this game, and they're going to have a hit advantage tonight. There's no doubt about that. But the fact of the matter is that I think as the series goes on, that's going to be more effective to allow their elite offense to take over, where LA didn't have an elite offense. But I think tonight Nashville will ride the wave of the intensity level in Bridgestone. But to me, I mean, listen, you've got to play physical if you're Winnipeg. That's always been their ammo. You got a guy like Buffalo that's 6'5", 260. Trouba's 202, Myers 229, Sherratt 219. I mean that's really where your bread and butter is. But I think unlike in the Vegas LA series, I don't think that there's that dynamic offense to carry LA. But I definitely do think that there is in Winnipeg. But I think the point is, Andrew, tonight I think their focus is going to be more about showing their dominance in a physical matter, and maybe less about how good they are offensively. So yes, I think the focus for them will be more on the physical play than it will be offensively tonight.
Because personally, I always mention how much different regular season hockey is versus the playoff hockey, and that's a good point that you mentioned about that. But sometimes I do wonder if Winnipeg comes in with that mindset, does it take away the game from them and does it distract them? And so can it be a negative thing and can it be a positive thing? I think so. So hopefully, I agree with you. I hope Winnipeg uses that in a positive way and kind of figures that way to bump Nashville off the puck and kind of get in their head and be physical, and that could work as a great advantage for them, I think.
I definitely do as the series goes on. I just don't think so tonight. I think they'll
Yeah.
be more focused on showing their dominance physically than focusing on how good they are offensively. And I think Nashville just plays their game tonight. Nashville scores early. I think this game's over.
Nashville, yeah. Are you going to go money line or regulation line, Dana? It's
Well, if
money
I can
line.
get a dollar, if I can get $1.50, I'll go money line. But that's
All right.
tiptoeing. It's tiptoeing. So I got $1.50 when I bet it. So I know we
There's
see
a dollar
higher than
fifty.
that.
There's $1.50 in Vegas, $1.51 at Heritage. We'll give you $1.50. There we go. There's a couple $1.50s floating
Thank you
around there.
so much.
Money lines. That's right. Exactly. Now you don't have to sweat overtime now. You can still have a chance to win if it goes to overtime now. See what I'm doing for you? See what I'm
I'm
doing?
kind of
All right,
loving
Alex.
that. I'm kind of loving that regulation bet though.
I
You
told
guys
you we've
kind of
turned
turned
Dana
that.
into the
Yeah.
regulation bets. He's doing it now regularly. Why not? I mean, you get a better price, and as long as the game avoids overtime and you got the winning team, you're good. And
God,
it's
I
a
can't
great bargain.
believe the difference. I really
But
never
just
even looked at it. I can't believe the difference in the prices.
Yep,
it's
it's a
hard to
great bet.
believe, but Ian, imagine if you had Pittsburgh like yesterday in regulation, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously it ended up working out for you, but you would have been watching that comeback, seeing it happen. Imagine if they ended up winning that game in overtime and you had them in regulation. You would have been pissed. You would have been furious. But some people obviously got lucky and had them in regulation. But I think that in a game like that, you might as well just take them full game.
If you're having a
Obviously, if
good
it's a high.
NHL
Yes.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, if you're having a good NHL season betting sides, like a really good season, and you were to split every side bet between the regulation line and the money line, maybe half on the money line, half on the reg line, boy, you'd have a chance to really maximize that return on investment in a hurry. That would add up, that would build up for sure over the course of time. Alex B. Smith, Winnipeg, Nashville. These are two teams he should know very well. It's the Central Division. Watches the Blackhawks a lot, watches the Wild a lot. Who do those two teams play a lot during the season? Winnipeg and Nashville. So he knows these teams well. Alex, what do you like here?
Yeah, I do. I get to see these teams, like I said, quite often. And I know we all talked about how this, should have been the series. All this should be the Western Conference Final because these are arguably two of the better teams in the Western Conference, if not the entire league. But what I think we're going to see here in this first game is going to be completely different than what we're going to see from the entire series. I think this will be a 7-game series. I think home ice is going to be huge. And Danny made a great point talking about, crowds inspiring crowds. That's something I've always seen and felt, especially with the NHL. We got three of the rowdiest crowds in the Western Conference now, still in this thing with Vegas, Nashville, and don't forget the whiteout in Winnipeg. That's going to be just as fierce as ever. So, like I said, the home ice is going to be of huge importance here in this series. But I think the fact that these two teams are familiar with each other, they know that they have abundance of offensive talent, 4 lines that can roll. I think the key is going to be defense, especially goaltending. Like I said, Pekka Rinne did not have a good opening series against Colorado, but now he's playing a team that he's done well against in his career, 15-4-1 in 21 starts. I think this is going to be kind of a fresh look at him, for him playing against a team, like I said, that he knows is going to be a little bit deeper. They're going to be trying to do a lot more things. They're not just heavily reliant on one line. I think sometimes maybe goalies, think about it like with defenses in football. Goalies can sometimes almost get lured into the fact that they're, oh, all I got to worry about is McKinnon. All you got to worry about is, one or two pieces here or there, and everybody else they just kind of forget about. And sometimes it might lead to them being a little bit off their game. It's kind of the same thing as a one-dimensional offense, a football, throwing the ball, and you don't worry about the run. All of a sudden, the run comes to bite you in the ass. So that being said, you look at the other side of the coin, Connor Hellebuck, who's been absolutely sensational. He's coming off back-to-back shutouts for what that's worth. Obviously, like I said, Minnesota's offense was once again lethargic and missing key pieces down the stretch. I think we're going to see an under in this game here. That's what I played. I played the under 5.5. I think these two teams are going to be heavily reliant. The last line change is going to be big. Once again, a point of home ice. I think both teams are really going to be trying to clamp down defensively. Like I said, it's going to be physical. It's going to be chippy. We should see a lot of power play opportunities, but both these teams, I think, will be able to find ways to kill off penalties. I think this will be a 2-1 game. Like I said, Nashville, I give them the edge being at home, but I think we see an under in this game, and then we'll see kind of all hell break loose, more of an offensive style, what we've been expecting down the road as these two teams obviously start to get a little fatigued. One more note, Winnipeg's been off for 7 days. They've had some guys, some injury issues. That's going to be key, having them rested and ready being on the road. So I think it's going to be a tightly contested game tonight.
All right, Alex going with the under 5.5. Winnipeg, Nashville game 1 tonight. Interesting. Like, this series has the potential to be really, really good. I can't wait. I mean, I'm honestly more excited about this than the other one. So it's a series that I can't wait for. We move to Saturday now. Boston, Tampa Bay to get their series going. This is game 1 of this series, Eastern Conference semifinals. Boston, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay minus 145. Home favorite. The total 6 here. Shaded to the under, about minus 115. The Saturday afternoon start time here. That's Boston Bruins outlast, I guess you could say, the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7 really hard-fought games. Overcame a 4-3 deficit going into the third period to take care of business in Game 7. You got to be impressed with the fact that I don't know if it's. I know Tony Maserati on the Boston radio has made the comment that Tuukka Rask tried to lose this game. His teammates wouldn't let him in terms of Game 7. I don't know about that. I mean, obviously he didn't want to lose the game. It's just he didn't play his best there in that 7th game. That's all there is to it. But the Boston Bruins, we started to talk about how late in the season Bruce Cassidy's team had more and more forward depth, and boy, did that come to the forefront in Game 7 to beat Toronto. Danton Heinen scores. Jake DeBrusk, the rookie, with 2 huge goals in that 7th game. That's impressive, and that's the kind of depth up front that Boston has that, quite frankly, the New Jersey Devils didn't have. And I think that's going to pose some challenges here for the Tampa Bay Lightning in this series. I thought Boston a month ago, I said it a month and a half ago, if they meet up at some point with Tampa in the playoffs, they'll be live in that series. And I'm not backing away from that one bit. Will they win the series? Again, I think this is another close series in the end. Tampa Bay against New Jersey, they looked a lot more like October, November, December peak Tampa Bay. So did Vasilevsky. He was very good in that series. But is that a product of a bit of a team in New Jersey that relies on a top-heavy team, relies on Taylor Hall and maybe 1 or 2 more guys? Or is that a sign of Tampa Bay really getting their game ironed out after a really dismal March and April? They did not play good hockey, Tampa Bay, in March and April. Did they iron it out against New Jersey? I got to see the first couple of games at least in this series until I'm convinced of it. I actually did take a little bite with Boston plus 120 series price. Game 1, I'm probably going to stay away. I'm very trepidatious with the sides in game 1s of these series. You know, you're talking about Boston off a little bit more of a lesser turnaround Wednesday to Saturday. Tampa Bay off a longer layoff. So we'll see how these teams come out in game 1. Totals wise, it's sitting there at 6. Probably going to stay back from a total in this game as well. I did like the improvements Tampa Bay made defensively as that series went on against New Jersey. So to me, I'll watch game 1. Sit back, see how the teams play, see how the goalies look. Can Tuukka Rask get back in form? Because Game 6 was not pretty. Game 7 was even worse for him. He's got to step it back up again against this potent Tampa Bay offense. Can he do it? We know he's capable, but can he do it is the big question. So Game 1's an interesting one. It's probably going to be more of a sit back and observe one than having a bet side or total, for me at least, in Game 1. Let's start with Dana this time with the Boston-Tampa Bay Game 1 Saturday afternoon. Dana, Boston Bruins, do they have a chance in this series? Do you think Tampa Bay's turned it around and they're back on peak form? What do you see happening here?
No, guys. Hey, look, I've gone on record saying I think Boston wins this series, but I'm going to go with Tampa Bay in game one. And, it is certainly hard to go against a team that's 36-15 at Amalie Arena. And that works out to be about a 70% winning, 700 winning percentage. So I just think there's an element in these game ones with these home teams where they just feed off of these crowds that may not be there in game two for some of these arenas. But, Tampa's more than capable, obviously, of beating anybody in the league. So it's not that far of a stretch. And if you're only asking me to lay $1.45 at home, I'd be more than happy to do that. And honestly, guys, Boston has lost 6 out of their last 7 games on the road, and I need to see a better performance when they go on the road than what I have seen, and especially in the Toronto series. And I need to see a better performance out of Rask. The other psychological factor to this is you may get a little bit of an exhale from the Boston Bruins. I mean, Tampa's been kind of mentally ramping up for this for a while, and Boston just got through with a tough series against Toronto, and they may get into this one and need a couple games to kind of fully become fully engaged as they were against Toronto. So I think this is a really good spot for Tampa, even though I think Boston ultimately will win this series. And so much has been made of Tampa Bay from an offensive perspective, and obviously why not? They're the top offensive team in the league. Nothing has changed as the postseason has started, but they're pretty good defensively as well. And even though their numbers, you might look at their numbers and say, wow, that's kind of average. Well, when teams are high transition teams or high scoring teams, usually their defensive numbers aren't nearly as good as their offensive numbers, just because they're a high transition team. And when you're a high transition team, that usually leads to opportunities going back the other way. But Tampa's done a pretty good job of limiting their opponents' chances, and they've been able to outscore any they've been able. I was going to use the old Dallas analogy where they outscored their mistakes, but it's really not a mistake. But they're just so strong offensively that they can give up 32, 33 shots a night and not have a problem. I'm not a huge fan of Vasilevsky. I almost sometimes put him in the same category of Rask because, there's sometimes where he looks like he could be a Vezina Trophy winner. And then there's other times where you just kind of wonder if the backups should get some, if Hudobin should get some minutes. But I think Boston's top line is in a discussion, certainly as being one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. They have to have a huge series to win this series. But I think when you start going past that, you got, I think I'll take, Tyler Johnson and Palat a lot sooner than I'll take DeBrusque, and especially Krejci and Nash. I mean, I know name-wise, it's, you look at Nash and you say, well, I mean, that should be pretty good, but it really just is not. And Krejci is so up and down. Krejci reminds me of when I was a kid and I was turning a dial on the AM radio trying to get baseball games from far away. And sometimes the game would come in and then sometimes it would go back out again. And that's kind of the way I look at David Krejci's game. I mean, for a second line center, you just have to get much more production out of them. Or out of him. So, in this particular game, I'm taking a home team. I'm taking a team that has a dynamic offense, and I think that they ride that wave in game one. Whereas I think that the road team, as it goes on, gets stronger and stronger, and ultimately wins the series.
All right, so he likes Boston in the series, but Tampa Bay specifically in game one on Saturday afternoon. It's an interesting battle of blue lines. Whose blue line and whose blue line depth can step up? Because outside of Victor Hedman, I'm going to say it right now, and I don't care what people think. I'm not in love with the Lightning blue line. Girardi's an older guy. He's a step slow. McDonough, I'm not in love with McDonough as some people think, or some people are. McDonough was really good 2 years ago. He was not quite as good last year. I think he was wretched at points for the Rangers earlier this year. Strawman's still pretty good, but not quite what he was a year or two ago. I'm not big on Braden Coburn. He's just journeyman, and sometimes he's capable of being forechecked and coughing up the puck and making mistakes. And Sergachev's just a young guy. So there's some question marks there. But on the flip side, that Toronto speed gave Boston fits as that series went on. lucky to survive it. So I'm going to need your Matt Grzelcyk's of the world, your Adam McQuaid's to really be good. I thought Kevin Miller played a very good Game 7 for Boston. Need more of that from him in this series as well. Krug had a terrible giveaway in one Toronto goal the other night. He's got to be solid. Big Z and McAvoy on the top pair are usually going to be pretty reliable for you. But again, it's whose blue line I think is going to step up and negate these two teams who've got good four-line depth. Going to be the key in this series. Let's get to Alex. Tampa Bay, Boston. Alex, what do you think?
It's gonna be a fun series to watch. I don't know if I'll be doing a whole lot of betting with the series, and if I do, it'll be mostly live wagering stuff. With something I got really into in the first round. But the biggest thing, obviously, goaltending is gonna be huge in the series, like in any series. And Vasilevsky, like I said, I think having this rest and the fact that he played fairly well in the first round, because that was a key with Vasilevsky at the end of the year, was that he looked very tired. It was just the most minutes we've seen him play. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds right away against a team that, for his career, really he hasn't done well against. 1-4-1 and 6 starts against Boston. Where on the flip side, Tuukka Rask has done fairly well against this Tampa Bay team, and they've won 8 of the last 10 meetings. But Dana, as you mentioned about Boston, yeah, not looking good on the road at all, losing 6 of the last 7. And that's something that's key, because here with Tampa, their team, and they really don't have, like I said, the home ice edge is not really as big, at least in my numbers, as it is where it is with other series. So, stealing that game, like we have, like saw at Pittsburgh, stealing that game 1 on the road is something that Boston would really want to try and do. But, how much energy will they have coming off just 3 days? After wrapping up that, like I said, mentally and physically taxing series with Toronto. So, like I said, I'll be watching this game, and I have no real interest on the side of total here, but I think we see this one go at least 6 games, maybe 7, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see a lot of overtime games in here as well. So that's something, a prop I might be looking at, but yeah, not much of an edge really. I would give the slight edge to Tampa Bay and the Lightning. I think Vasilevsky will be able to steal more games than Rask here, but like I said, it's a Boston team that's loaded with talent, and like I said, game 1 will really determine the pace of how this whole series goes.
Yeah, some Rick Nash chatter in the chat going on right now. I'm done expecting anything big out of Rick Nash in a big spot in the postseason. That's all there is to it. I'm done expecting anything out of him other than stupid penalties and missing the net and with a shot close in. That's all I saw from him pretty much in the first round. Let's go to Andrew McGinnis here. Tampa Bay and Boston, Andrew. Is this a series you're really interested in betting wise, or are you like Alex, maybe going to just sit back and watch it more than bet it? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking at. It would be one of those. Sorry, but one of those series for me where I'll really have to look back at it and just kind of think to myself, how it's going to really shape up. But one thing that I saw Mike Babcock say is that he said that game 7s don't matter to teams unless you're the team that loses, and I think that's really important because in my personal opinion, I think that having said that, the Boston came out of game 7 and they might be a little bit tired or mentally drained. I think that's kind of irrelevant to a team that won and is feeling excited. I mean, if you're the Leafs coming off that, obviously they're eliminated now, but they're allowed to be pissed off. But this Bruins team has to flip the switch ASAP and get ready for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I think in general, they're coming off a high and they're feeling good coming into that, whereas Tampa Bay's had a decent amount of rest. So although they've had some time to strategize, they've had some time to get ready, I think it's almost in the Bruins' favor that they're fresh off a huge game, a huge win, huge third period comeback, and they're fired up and ready to keep playing hockey. I'm a big believer, guys, in rest being a bad thing a lot of the time. I don't think to a lot of degrees, especially in the playoffs, where if you're resting for too long, what can you really talk about? How much strategy and how much change can the coach really implement until you can just get out there and play some hockey? And I think that this Bruins team is not going to have too much time to think, and they're going to get out there and do their thing. But Ian had a little touch on, and you guys touched on the defensemen for both these two teams. And Ian, I have to agree with you. I think that that's Tampa Bay's biggest downfall is that, throughout the regular season, when I would catch their games, I would really see them, they're capable of scoring 6 or 7 goals per game, but they're also going to give up, 3, 4, 5 goals per game as well. And that wouldn't really surprise me. So one thing, it goes very underrated. Everyone always talks about how there's, 3 lines-ish for the Boston Bruins that can produce and score and kind of just light that lamp all of a sudden for you. I think it goes without saying that guys like Chara, McAvoy, Krug, Miller, even Adam McQuaid on any given night, they don't do anything too special, guys, but they do a great job of just getting that puck out of their own end, and getting it up to those talented forwards. I mean, Boston Bruins are one of those teams that can really escape the defensive zone really fast and get that puck up the ice. All of a sudden, you've got Bergeron and Marchand on a 2-on-1 breakaway, and just like that. So I think that might cause a little bit of trouble for this Tampa Bay team. And I think the physicality aspect of this Bruins team will actually cause some trouble for this Tampa Bay team as well. They're more of a out in the pond hockey, shinny kind of style team. There's so much talent, so much speed on that team that is the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I think combined overall aspects, I think Tuukka Rask can step his game up. He can be that goaltender for this Bruins team. But overall, I think defensively and depth-wise, I'm still on the Bruins. I'm on the Bruins for this series. But guys, first, for my pick for this first game, it's going to have to be the over in the first period. We're getting minus 117 at Pinnacle, over 1.5, of course. And I think these two teams will come out firing. It will be an exciting first period start. Sometimes in a first game of a series, you think it might be kind of quiet. They might feel each other out, might see what the other team's kind of bringing, what kind of systems they're running, what the other team's trying to do. But I think these two teams, there's going to be no hesitation. First goal is very important in this game. So I'm looking over in the first period, 1.5, minus 117.
Yeah, I think Boston and Tampa Bay both in the first period of their opening round went over in the first period in those two games. I think the game one, Boston-Toronto, was a push for the full game total, but it did go over in the first period. Definitely, I remember it going over Tampa-New Jersey, the first period over in game one. So that's not a bad look to go there. Over 1.5 first period with Boston-Tampa Bay. And like I said about the Tampa Bay blue line, there's two guys I would maybe take on my team. Definitely Hedman, but the problem is Hedman can't play all 60 minutes. It's just impossible. But he is phenomenal. He's outstanding. We know that. And Strawman's the two Swedes I'd take probably on my team. They're good defensemen, but there's a lot of question marks everywhere else on this Tampa Bay blue line, and it's going to be tested, I think, here by Boston. But similarly, though, Boston's depth blue liner is going to be tested by Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay is another one of those teams. That's the theme of this second round. Teams that have four lines that can score, and Tampa Bay certainly has that. So that's going to be a test as well on the Boston side. All right, let's get to the second and final game on today's show. On second and final game on Saturday, third game on today's show and final game, San Jose Vegas, game 2 at T-Mobile Arena. We've got Vegas. How about this little adjustment after a 7-0 game 1 win? We're talking minus 180 home favorites here in game 2. My goodness, we've soured on the San Jose Sharks that quickly. We're going to find out from Dana Lane in a second if he's soured on the San Jose Sharks that quickly for a guy that thought San Jose would win this series before it started. We've got Vegas minus 180, total 5.5 shaded to the under here in game 2. Look, San Jose's got to fire back something strong here, you would think. That's a total humiliation last night against the Vegas Golden Knights. Completely dominated from the beginning. They got into early penalty trouble. It got them behind the 8 ball, and the big guns stepped up for the Golden Knights right away. All their top scorers, Marchessault and company, all year, getting them early goals in that game, and just taking the crowd was into it and a frenzy right from the hop with those early goals. And then San Jose, as soon as that crowd's whipped up into a lather like that so quickly into the game, and Vegas gets out to that quick start, it's hard to dig yourself out of that kind of hole in that building against that team. And that's all there is to it. And San Jose was done practically after the first 10 minutes of that game when it was 4-0 in favor of the Golden Knights. So Peter DeBoer's not panicking. He said the right things in the press conference. You don't get 4 points. You don't get 2 wins for this win. If you're the Vegas Golden Knights, it's just one game. So Peter DeBoer's keeping the right perspective here for the San Jose Sharks. But man alive, I'm telling you right now, and I thought San Jose had a little bit more depth, more skill, a little bit more speed sprinkled in their lineup with some of these youngsters in the third and fourth line that they put in there, Evander Kane in there. And I thought their increased level of speed would be able to handle Vegas a little bit more. But man, they look like the same team that last year couldn't skate worth a damn against the Edmonton Oilers in that first round series. It was a track meet and they couldn't keep up. That's what I saw out of that San Jose team last night. So that concerns me moving forward. That being said, there's no way, no how I would lay minus 180 in this spot. I know Vegas was dominant. I did pick Vegas to win this series in 7 games, so I like the start. But San Jose with the group of veterans they've got, the pride element at play, they're going to be firing back strong. I mean, you're going to see more desperation. I need to see more blocked shots. I need to see more commitment in front of the goaltender, Martin Jones from San Jose in this game. I think you'll see that. Will it be enough to win? Who knows? But I think you're going to get a strong response from San Jose. The question is, will it be enough to win? And like I said, I think there's value with the overs in this series. I said it before it started. Vegas did all the scoring for you if you bet the over 5 last night in game 1. But I did think there's residual value to look for a few more higher scoring games in this series because of the fact Vegas shut down a bad LA offense in the first round, and San Jose shut down a below average, if not sometimes bad, Anaheim offense in the first round. And San Jose and Vegas offensively going to be better and stronger and tougher tests for these two teams defensively. That was my mindset. We got it over in game 1, and certainly I don't mind going over 5.5 plus 120 as well. You get a nice price here as well. They did bump it up a half goal. It's not 5 now, it's 5.5, but I can get plus 120. Good plus price over 5.5. That's the way I'll go here. Sharks and Knights. Game 2, Saturday night, NBC. How about Las Vegas getting an NBC primetime game? Good for them. They'll be jacked up big time once again at T-Mobile Arena as they look to go 2-up in the series. Let's start with Alex this time for San Jose Vegas to begin. Alex, what do you like?
Yeah, that was a crazy start to the game last night. I didn't expect that whatsoever with Vegas to just come out and just absolutely destroy San Jose in that fashion. But this shows you, like I said, the speed of this Vegas team. We've talked about it all year. It's just absolutely dominant. But how slow San Jose looked as well too. And that's the thing. It's been hard. The conversation of the first round with Vegas and LA was, is Vegas this fast or is LA that slow? It's a mix of both. Vegas is. I mean, this is a team, speed kills should be one of their mottos because they truly just will outwork and outskate damn near anybody in the league. That being said, yeah, you expect San Jose to bounce back from that effort and give everything they got. They don't want to go back to the Shark Tank down 0-2, but the fact that they might be losing Evander Kane, who's arguably been one of their best players down the stretch, leading into the postseason and even the first 4 games of the postseason in the first round, the fact that he might not be there, that's not a good look for a team that could not put a puck in the net last night, despite having a ton of offensive shot chances in the first 20, 30 minutes of play. So, I'm hesitant to, I was looking at maybe, okay, take San Jose, but now more than likely him missing that game. This is a game I'll be off of it in game 2. But would more than likely, if they go down 0-2, I would look for San Jose to at least give the strongest of efforts in game 3 and might be able to get a even higher plus price should they lose tomorrow night in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the Evander Kane potential suspension, and it's not more than just potential. I think he'll get something as far as I'm concerned. That's definitely going to hurt this San Jose Sharks team moving forward. Personally, if I were to take the San Jose position in game 2, I would be more inclined first period than full game because it's one of those situations where I think you get the best out of San Jose in the first 20 minutes off the horrendous play last night. But I don't know if it's sustainable for 60 minutes right now against this Vegas team, and especially against the way Marc-Andre Fleury's going. I mean, he picked up right where he left off against LA. I mean, San Jose did have some quality looks at the net even after they fell behind. And Marc-Andre Fleury's lateral movement, post to post, seeing the puck, getting out of the blue paint and challenging shots, being on his angle, all of that stuff. Spot on again, Marc-Andre Fleury last night. He was fantastic again, and that is definitely the one concern I've got with going over the total one more time is that Fleury again was great last night. Let's get to Andrew, San Jose Vegas. What do you like here?
I just think the Las Vegas Golden Knights, they just feel comfortable with each other. They all trust each other. Trust is so huge for any sport team, any professional athlete. You look at Marc-Andre Fleury back there, he's having a great time. He's being himself. He's smiling. He's focused. He's lasered in. And everything seems very in slow motion to him. He seems like he's always in the right spot, like you said, Ian, with the angles. He's always kind of embracing everything. It's not really too many tough rebounds with him. But look, I'm going to have to look under the total. I think when a goalie is playing as well as he did, I don't think Martin Jones can have as crappy as a performance as he did last night once more. And I think the Sharks did have a bad performance as a team. But collectively, if you watch some of those goals, I mean, those are not playoff goals. Some of those are not playoff talent level goals. Those are some goals that sometimes you see a fourth liner kind of just sauce a puck on net and score. I mean, some of those were not goals that really impressed me and got me off the couch to get too excited about, to be quite honest with you. And if you look at this San Jose series versus the Ducks, the first game was 3-0, second game was 3-2, game 3 8-1. So there's your magic game there where they just exploded. So in my eyes, when I look at that, guys, I have to really wonder, were the Ducks just that shitty, or were the Sharks just having that explosive offense that game? And that's really what I really think about in games like that. For me, I think the Sharks, if they're going to have any success against this Vegas team, they're going to have to limit their chances. They're going to have to shut them down. And Martin Jones is going to have a huge performance. You see guys like Brent Burns back there in the first period, they're down 4-0 or 3-0. And he just looks like, what the hell do I do? I mean, what's going on right now to my team? So if there's a game where they're going to come back strong, I don't think they're going to come back and actually win that game possibly, but I think they're going to have to keep it low scoring. So for me, I love to read the way the odds makers react to certain spots, kind of like how we saw the 5.5 in Game 7 versus Leafs and Bruins. To me, that should have been a 6, but because the game before that was only 3-1, it switched back to a 6. So this one here was 5, now it goes back to 5.5. They expect more in the second game. Vegas isn't going to put up that many goals in this second game, so I think under 5.5 is the play.
Yeah, I mean, for Brent Burns, you brought him up. That was not just a bad game. That was a horrendous game from his perspective last night. That was just awful stuff. I mean, he was just completely. That's one of the worst games I've seen him play this season. And you know he's probably going to be better later in this series. But last night was a poor night for Brent Burns. Delay game penalty on the ice for many of those Vegas goals. Yeah, Brent Burns. You know, maybe you got to cool it with the Jack Link's beef jerky ads, less Jack Link's beef jerky ads and Sasquatch and all that. Let's focus on a little defense next time out. How about that? Dana Lane, let's go to San Jose and Vegas here. Game number 2. Dana, you liked San Jose before this series began to win it. Are we overreacting to this one game? Should we pump the brakes and say it's just one game? San Jose is going to be fine, or are there legitimate concerns and problems they've got? What do you say, Dana?
Well, of course there's legitimate concerns. I mean, listen, the problem with betting series or telling people what you think is if you can never change. And I'm not saying I'm changing in any way, but this is the only series where I have to stick to San Jose, but it's only a series where I'm okay. This is game 2. Now I expect the adjustment, but I'm not even sure based upon what we saw. Now, don't remember, we saw a 7-0 game last year too, and then it completely changed in the next game. But based upon what we saw, it's really difficult to say Pete DeBoer is going to make that big of an adjustment where San Jose will come back and take game 2. And honestly, I really think if San Jose wins, that they're going to have you're going to have Martin Jones that's going to have to steal this. Or to me, I mean, man for man, obviously San Jose is the weaker of the two teams. A couple things. Listen, I know Marc-Andre Fleury was having fun last night. But if I'm the San Jose Sharks and I'm watching Fleury do the wave, that doesn't sit well for me. Okay, so put a little bit of inspiration into my belly for game 2. The other thing too is from a refereeing standpoint, from a officiating standpoint, rather, this stuff that happened at the end of the game would never have happened if they called the original penalty on Pavelski when he, basically was murdering Bellemare or when it when well, first of all, there was a boarding call on Dylan that was never called. And instead they called the holding penalty, which was a holding penalty for sure, but Dylan gets off scot-free. There was a referee sitting right there, and it is absolutely amazing to me how much of this crap is left gone unchecked in the postseason, where apparently, we're going to let boys be boys and let the players figure it out. Well, you cannot give a license to players to go ahead and cross-check people or hit people when they're down on the ice. That's not hockey. That's not letting the boys be boys. That's not playing the game. So I think what happened at the end certainly could have been avoided if they had just called the original penalty. Now, as far as this is concerned tonight or for tomorrow night, listen, guys, I just there's nothing that compels me to take the San Jose Sharks. And I think that once they get this series back to San Jose and get out of this asylum, which I feel like that they were just so overwhelmed by what was going on. And I wrote a thing for SBR this morning, and I said, I take T-Mobile Arena and their atmosphere as the asylum allowed its inmates or its patients to go out only one time, and it was last night in game 1. And not only are we going to allow them to go out and be as crazy as they can, we're going to give one of the wardens a microphone and try to whip them up for 60 minutes to see how nuts they can be. That's exactly what this crowd was. This is the first time, guys, that I watched a national broadcast and the crowd was completely not allowing me to hear the announcers of the game. I mean, the crowd was louder than the announcers that were actually there. And so, listen, I don't think San Jose is going to make. I think when it gets back to SAP and they really kind of focus on playing the good home games, I think that you'll see a real change in this series. But there's nothing that compels me to take San Jose right now. That I'm not jumping off board, and it's very easy to say, okay, San Jose will win 2 games back at SAP. But based upon what I saw in game 1, and the one advantage that I really thought that San Jose's had with Marcus Sorensen and Fair and Melker Carlson, I thought really they could bring an offensive element deep into their lineup that Vegas just couldn't. Man, they had 4 shots on goal compared to the Bellemare line. And I thought that the fourth line for Vegas outplayed them too. So that one advantage that I thought really would go with San Jose went out the window last night. And I like the Sharks tonight or tomorrow night to win this game. Or I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean,
Yeah, I like Vegas to win that game. And different story when they go back to San Jose, perhaps.
all right, Vegas. And obviously, if Dana's recommending Vegas, he would also be recommending them reg line more than likely as well. Get the better price with that regulation line on the Vegas Golden Knights in game 2. Yeah, I mean, for the Marcus Sorensen line, I was raving about them. I thought, hey, that's a great performance against Anaheim. That third and fourth line depth really showed up against the Ducks. And,
Yeah.
well, we got to go to the old Ian Classic tagline last night. Couldn't find that line with a telescope on the ice last night. Unfortunately for the San Jose Sharks, it was just not good enough. And again, if your depth forwards are not going to raise their game and play well against that Vegas team, who's got those depth forwards themselves and are capable of beating you in that department, third and fourth line production and impact on the hockey game, that's going to be a problem for the San Jose Sharks. We'll see what kind of fire back effort. But again, yeah, the effort's going to be there. Obviously, humiliating loss, but doesn't guarantee a win. Not when you're seeing Vegas just continue to roll as they have so far all playoff long. But that's a fascinating watch. That is a more than fascinating watch tomorrow night. Game 2 of this series between the Sharks and the Golden Knights taking place at T-Mobile Arena and NBC. You think that crowd's going to be into it, knowing those two? This is NBC, not just NBCSN anymore. This is NBC. This is the big kahuna. That's
They don't
as if they
care.
need more of a
They
reason to
don't.
get jacked up,
Ian, they don't care. They're lunatics
no,
no matter who covers this
no
game.
matter what. They could be on
AT&T
the Golf
Sportsnet's
Channel.
there. It
They'd
doesn't
be
matter.
lunatics.
Right.
Yeah. Golf Channel, ESPN Ocho, whatever. They'd be going nuts for it. Yeah, Billy Gibbons was there at the ZZ Top. He was the ringleader of choice to get the crowd all fired up and wind the noise meter there at the T-Mobile Arena. So,
Actually, Bill Lambier did that.
oh yeah, oh last night.
Yeah, he's a head
There
coach
you
of the
go.
Las Vegas Aces, the WNBA team. But that's okay. But Billy Gibbons
That's right.
was there for sure.
I could see them going as they go deeper into the playoffs. Vegas, they're going to get more and more big time guest stars to do these kind of things at their games. I could totally see that. Going like it's not you don't have to twist your arm to get some celebrity or some athlete or some actor or some musician to hey come to Vegas. You know it's such a shit place to visit. I mean yeah come there and just help us out with getting the crowd all riled up. I think it's a very easy get for Vegas to find some people to do that for them and guest stars at the games during the playoffs. All right, let's get to best bets to wrap up our show for this Friday. Let's go around the horn with best bets from either the Friday or Saturday games. Let's start with Andrew. What's your best bet?
I'm going to stick with the first period play that I had mentioned. Boston, Tampa Bay, over 1.5 first period, minus 17, minus 117. I think both these two teams have a great start. I think the Bruins are carrying some momentum off from that game 7, and they proved once again that they have depth on depth on depth. They don't need to rely on 1 or 2 guys to score every night. And Tampa's going to have to realize that about themselves as well. So over in the first period for me.
All right, that's Tampa, Boston, over 1.5 first period Saturday afternoon. Andrew's best bet. Dana, what do you got for best bet?
As long as it toes the line of the 150, I'll take Nashville. Take Nashville straight up and not on the regulation line. But my God, can you stay out of the penalty box, please? I mean, I know this has been your thing all year, and now you're carrying it into the postseason. You basically let a Colorado team sit there in that series because you couldn't stay out of the box. So if you're going to do that against Winnipeg, you're going to lose this series. I like them in Game 1, but like I said, I like Winnipeg to win the series.
All right, Winnipeg in the series. Nashville, though, in Game 1, and Nashville's Game 1 minus 150 is the best bet for Dana Lane tonight. That's going to make our pal from Winnipeg, believe it or not, Nick Ortinsky, who's in the chat. That's nice to see you. He's a big Jets guy. He's from Winnipeg. That's going to make him happy that you like the Jets to advance past Nashville in the series. Alex B. Smith, best bet. What do you got?
Yeah, going with the game tonight. Winnipeg, they've gone under the total 6 of their last 7 and 8 of their last 12 on the road. Like I said, these two teams, they play fast, up-tempo hockey, but I don't think we're going to see any of that tonight. I think the goaltenders are going to shine here. I like the Jets and Predators to go under 5.5, minus $1.05. That is my best bet for this evening.
All right, so under 5.5, Winnipeg, Nashville, best bet for Alex B. Smith. And hey, it worked for me. My best bet's going to be San Jose, Vegas. We got an over in Game 1. I said there'd be value to the over this series because you got two teams that went up against putrid offenses in round 1. That ain't the case anymore. I think San Jose offensively is going to fire back something. My only concern is Marc-Andre Fleury looks like he's got a steel wall right now in front of him. I mean, it is damn difficult to beat him right now. That's my fear here, but I'm getting a good price, 5.5 plus 120, underdog plus price attached. So we'll go with that. San Jose, Vegas over 5.5 plus 120. Game 2 Saturday night at T-Mobile Arena. That'll be my best bet, and that's going to wrap up the show for this Friday. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back Sunday with our brief 30-minute edition. Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. I believe we'll have Pittsburgh, Washington Game 2 Sunday afternoon, and Winnipeg, Nashville Game 2 to break down on Sunday's show. Join us then for Andrew, Dana, and Alex. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Friday, Saturday Stanley Cup playoff action. We'll see you again on Sunday.